Mr. Ambassador, a pleasure to have you on CGTN. You participated in a panel discussion today about Hainan promoting its freight trade port and strengthening ties with other freight trade zones and ports. What is your impression of such efforts by Hainan?
This morning event was a great and brilliant idea because we need to synergize the cooperation among the free trade or free port among participating countries, of course to include Hainan and some of the ASEAN countries and other countries beyond ASEAN. And then more than 10 years ago, we agreed on free trade area between ASEAN and China. And now RCEP is already in the process of implementation. So we need to synergize by having a conversations on participating countries of the free trade zone, free port zone, free trade area, then we will get the benefit out of it.
I'm very impressed with how well you remember numbers, especially when it comes to trade figures between China and Indonesia. And you pointed out that China was Indonesia's largest trading partner long before the implementation of RCEP. Now with RCEP actually in effect for Indonesia, what are your expectations on where this trade relationship is headed next?
I have a high expectation on that. Case of point is that even though during the COVID time, 3 years, the volume of trade between China and Indonesia increased substantially. I quoted the number of last year. It's increased by 20%. According to the China customs, volume of trade, so both sides, export and import, almost 150 billion US dollar. So 149.1 billion US dollar. That's without RCEP. And according to the study conducted by us, that RCEP will increase our trade with the with the participating countries of RCEP by 11%. That's the trade aspect of the RCEP. The other aspect of the RCEP is investment. And according to the study as well, within 5 years' time, the foreign direct investment coming to Indonesia because of the RCEP will increase by 20%. So I'm quite optimistic that RCEP will bring benefit to Indonesia as well. Why I'm optimistic? Because RCEP was launched in Bali in 2011. And then after 8 years of negotiations, 15 participating countries agreed on one of the biggest trade pact in the world. 30% of the population, 30% of the trade, and 30% of investment.
Let me just quickly follow up on one thing. How do you attribute the growth in trade numbers between the two sides, even during COVID?
I think, put it this way, the relationship, the close relation between Indonesia and China due to the close relation between our two leaders. That's the main element. Because of the close relations, then it's transpired in the other cooperation as well. Trade, investment, socio-culture, meaning that people to people. You know, during COVID, both leaders had 8-time phone conversations. And last year, July last year, my president visited Beijing. He was the first foreign leaders after the Winter Olympics visited Beijing. And then only a few months later, President Xi Jinping went to Bali, attending the G20 meeting and had a bilateral meeting as well with my president. So only within 1 year, two leaders met 2 times. So this is the reflection on how close the relationship between two countries because of the relationship between two leaders.
The Boao Forum for Asia this year is themed around finding solidarity and cooperation at times of great uncertainties. How do you suggest we go about doing that? Is it possible?
I think I love the word of cooperation. If I could add one more, collaboration and open communications. If we are, Boao Forum set a platform for the leaders to communicate each other, for the business person to communicate each other. If they were able to establish a good communication among them, then cooperation, collaboration will follow after. That's happening to us, Indonesia and China, China and ASEAN, because 2 years ago we celebrated 30th anniversary of ASEAN-China relations, and we elevated the leaders, of ASEAN and China, elevated the strategic partnership of ASEAN-China to become comprehensive strategic partners. And look what happened after 2 years. Our trade relation increased substantially, investment as well, ASEAN and China. So Boao Forum created the platform for the leaders to communicate each other, to discuss issues, what will happen, what should we do together after the COVID time. So collaboration, cooperation is the good word for the Boao Forum this year.
This year also marks the 10th anniversary of the Belt and Road Initiative, and Indonesia was one of 2 countries where President Xi Jinping introduced this initiative to the world. How do you reflect back on the Belt and Road Initiative in the past 10 years, under which China and Indonesia made full use of their complementary strengths to develop ties? And what are your expectations for the many years to come?
Thank you very much, because we are not only celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Belt and Road Initiatives, but the comprehensive strategic partner between Indonesia and China as well, because we established that back in the 2013. Looking back 10 years ago, and what is happening now 10 years after, if you put it in number, a lot of things has been happened for the last 10 years. So within the context of the Belt and Road Initiatives, 2 countries, Indonesia and China, able to establish, we call it, 4 economic corridors in Indonesia. The first one is in North Sumatra as a hub for ASEAN. Second is the North Kalimantan as a hub for renewable energy, new energy transformation. The third one is in Bali, that's for economic creativity, new technology. So we are in the process of digital transformation. This is one of the priority. And the fourth one is in North Sulawesi. This is the hub for the Pacific. So now a lot of things already happen after we established the cooperation, synergize the Belt and Road Initiative from China, from President Xi Jinping, and Global Maritime Fulcrum from President Joko Widodo of Indonesia. Besides those 4 economic corridors, there are others projects as well. I think one of the iconic projects, hopefully it's going to be launched this year, is railway, a fast train from Jakarta to Bandung. And second is we call it 2 countries twin park concept between Fujian province and province in Indonesia to facilitate trade and investment between Indonesia and China. So those are the activities that both countries, Indonesia and China, agreed upon within the context of the Belt and Road Initiatives.
How can Hainan make itself a more appealing destination for Indonesian businesses and investors?
I think, let me start with the similarity between Hainan and Indonesia. Hainan is a tropical island. Indonesia is the tropical countries. And we were able as well to establish the provincial sisters between Hainan and Bali. So one aspect that would benefit us is the tourism sector. The second is trade, in particular with the idea of having trade port zone here. It will benefit both Indonesia and China as well. And then the third is the socioculture. Before COVID, more than 300 Indonesian students pursue their higher education here in Hainan. So looking forward, I'm quite optimistic. In terms of distance, Hainan is not that far from Indonesia. Before COVID, we have a direct flight from Hainan to Jakarta, Hainan to Bali, only 4 hours. So it will facilitate as well trade between Hainan and Indonesia. Only last month, party secretary, leaders of Hainan provincial government visited Indonesia. He met with the Indonesian official, he met with the Indonesian businessmen, he visited Bali as well. This is the reflection as well about confidence that Hainan and Indonesia, if we work together, then we'll benefit from working together.
Mr. Ambassador, I trust you will be more mobile this year, traveling a lot more within China or out of, now that COVID is behind us. Can you take this opportunity to share with us the priorities of your work this year as the Indonesian ambassador to China?
I would like to see the increase of volume of trade between two countries because this will bring benefit to both peoples. Second is investment. And then the third one is tourism economy. Before COVID, tourism economy contributed about 7 to 8% of our economy. I think China as well. Now with both countries already open, then I would like to see this year that more and more Chinese tourists visited wonderful Indonesia, because before COVID, more than 2 million Chinese tourists visited Indonesia and almost 1 million Indonesian tourists visited China. So we would like to see this happen as well. And the third one, before COVID, we have almost 16,000 Indonesian students in China. Of course, we would like to see them return to pursue their higher education here in China, because a lot of things for them to learn from university here as well in China. So once again, thank you very much for having me with you.
Thank you so much for your time. Best of luck to all of your endeavors this year, Mr. Ambassador.